On today's episode of Time About the Movies, we're going to do something a little bit different this time around. We're not just going to cover one weekend of movies, we're going to cover two, mostly because there aren't any major new releases over the next 2 that can fill up one episode as a whole. So I decided this time around I'm going to split it together into one episode overall. So we have 3 films to look at over the course of 2 weekends. We have Labor Day weekend. Actually, no, this is after Labor Day weekend with Riddick, starring Vin Diesel in the third installment of the Pitch Black series that took a bump in the road with the Chronicles of Riddick. So, does he find his way back with this one? We'll take a look and see. But then we'll jump to Friday the 13th of September for Insidious Chapter 2, and the Luc Besson directed The Family. So, 2 weekends we're covering here, 3 films overall. This is Time About the Movies. Twice. 2 weekends in a row.
Afraid of the dark, are you? Riddick, rated R.
It's better than Chronicles of Riddick, I'll give it that. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. And like I said, we're covering 2 weekends this time around, September 6th and September 13th, with 3 films overall. 3 films, there we go. And we're starting off with our first film here, and that is Riddick, the 3rd installment of the Chronicles of Riddick series. In this one, you have Vin Diesel back as notorious murderer Riddick, who's betrayed and left for dead on a desolate planet and uses his instincts to survive. He eventually teams up with mercenaries arriving to capture him to escape from a larger threat. These people also include Jordi Mola, Katie Sackhoff, Dave Bautista, Bokeem Woodbine, and Carl Urban. And like I said, it's definitely better than the Chronicles of Riddick. It definitely feels like a movie that's right back into what made Pitch Black kind of the fun movie that it actually was. Because Pitch Black was a fun film overall. They kind of took it way too seriously with the Chronicles of Riddick, and that's why that series kind of died out. But this one does take it back to form a little bit here. I don't think it's as good as the other Chronicles of as Pitch Black, but it's definitely better than the Chronicles of Riddick. It's a movie that you actually can see them going back to what made the original Pitch Black work. Is it a great movie? No. It's definitely a very flawed film, but like I said, it certainly kicks the crap out of the Chronicles of Riddick, which was just such a cluttered mess of a movie that was given way too much more money, and they spent it all on the visual look of the film, but unfortunately there wasn't a good story or good lines whatsoever. You don't have Riddick saying terrible lines like, "Are you going to stop the monsters this time?" and Vin Diesel going like, "I am the monster." Like, that still baffles me on how that line got through, and nobody looked at it and said, "Guys, you think we could maybe take that line out of this, because that sounds really stupid." No, we're putting it in there. And of course, nobody bought into that film. But this one was a bigger success overall. So, yeah, not much more to say about this one except that it's definitely a better movie than Chronicles of Riddick is. There is supposed to be another movie coming, but I don't know if it's actually made, or did they already start filming it here? Let me see here. It's on the Wikipedia page. Yeah, they actually are shooting it now. It actually has shot already. So sooner or later, we're going to get another Chronicles of Riddick movie. So hey, at least they're continuing the series overall. And honestly, I would rather see another Chronicles of Riddick movie than another Fast and Furious movie. And I think most people can agree with me on that at this point. So there you go. That's the one new release for September 6th. Now let's go ahead and look at the 2 new releases for the 13th of September, starting off with the biggest of the 2 releases, and that is Insidious Chapter 2.
Someone's standing in front of you.
When Josh went into that other world, something else came back.
Please don't make me do it.
Get out of my head!
Insidious Chapter 2, PG-13, opens Friday the 13th.
But sadly, it never got out of Patrick Wilson's head, and he was basically stuck with this series for the rest of time and space. And basically, hey, it worked out in his favor because he got to direct the last movie in general, and he got to stick around with James Wan for the other big franchise of his, The Conjuring. This is, of course, directed by James Wan, who has had a pretty good year with this and the first Conjuring movie. And in this one, it's Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne back as Josh and Renee Lambert, a husband and wife who seek to uncover the secret that has left them dangerously connected to the spirit world. Now, this one does not have the same scare factor as the first movie does. It does feel like they went for bigger than actually trying to move the story along here. And while sometimes the visual look of the films can still look pretty good, the cinematographer, this is John R. Leonetti, who would later go on to direct Annabelle the following year, which was not a great movie. But this one, the cinematography overall works okay here. Unfortunately, there really isn't a lot in terms of the scare factor in here. The scare factor really isn't as strong as it could be. Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne are doing the best they can to keep the movie afloat, but other than that, though, Yeah, it's a movie that really has a lot of ambition to it, and some good visuals overall. But it's definitely one of the weaker films in the series in general. It doesn't do the same thing that some of the more recent horror sequels have done, where they up the ante a little bit here. Hell, The Conjuring 2, I think, is a much better movie than the first Conjuring movie was, but this one, not so much. Not a bad movie, but definitely not not a film that's on the same level as the first Insidious movie. But at least the prequels that come out after this are definitely a lot better, and even The Red Door was actually not that bad. So take that for what you will. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. I've actually been really short on these reviews overall so far, but this last one here, I definitely can tell you we're going to talk a lot about, because yeah, it's an example of one of the worst movies of the year from our old reliable friend Luc Besson, who used to be great, but now not so much. And this is probably the best of his later movies that we're going to get to here. This is The Family. Oh, I'm sorry, The Family.
Back. Your family's insane.
I know.
The Family. Rated R.
We talk about a generic-ass title, The Family. Like, it really is not that... That's really your first warning sign right there that, yeah, this movie's not going to be any good. But a mafia boss and his family are relocated to a sleepy town in France under the Witness Protection Program after stitching on the mob, despite their best efforts of CIA agent Stansfield, played by Tommy Lee Jones, to keep him in line. Fred Manzioni, played by Robert De Niro, his wife Michelle Pfeiffer, and their children, played by Diana Agnon from Glee and John DeLeo, can't help but revert to old habits by blowing their cover by handling the problems the family way, enabling their former mafia cronies to take them down. Chaos ensues as old scores are settled in the unlikeliest of settings. And yeah, Luc Besson definitely has not had a good 2000 so far. He's had a lot of movies that have not been successful. A couple of ones that have been. The first Transporter movie. The Transporter movies in general were fun, but Taken 1 is pretty good. But, you know, stuff like Arthur and the Invisibles, the 2004 Taxi remake, Taken 2. Yeah, this is definitely not a good time for him. And like I said, this is actually one of those ones that's actually tolerable compared to the other movies that Besson will make in the rest of the decade. This isn't a bad movie, but it's not a great movie either. It's definitely one in the middle, if you will. The cast overall, I think, is okay in here. They do a good job with the material given to them. De Niro and Pfeiffer do play off each other very well. The two kids are pretty good in this. Tommy Lee Jones has a couple of good moments in here, but he's only in here for about 15 to 20 minutes in length. But you do like the characters because the actors are doing a good job of bringing them to life. And I'll give them credit for making the entire family act the same way. Like, everyone has that same thing about them, like they want to kill people. Like Robert De Niro's character isn't the only one who likes to hurt and kill people, but it's everyone else in the family. There's a great scene in the movie where Michelle Pfeiffer's in the supermarket, which is one of the funniest things about the movie in general. One of the few things I will say that, yeah, this is indeed worth it for that. The action sequences overall are pretty good, but the story is very predictable. You can definitely tell where everything is going to go because it's the type of film we've seen done to that before. I mean, this is basically a much more darker version of that show, The Riches, on FX, which is pretty much the same concept here, except this time around it's not a family that's taking the identity of a richer family. It's them moving to these various points across the country. And I mean, the movie has a lot of stupid moments, but there's one point towards the end of the film where Robert De Niro and Tommy Lee Jones' character go to a film event where they debate on the original film the original film they were supposed to show wasn't shown because they had to show another film, Goodfellas. I mean, it just really feels like Martin Scorsese. Yes, I know he's he's the producer on this movie, but we really gotta reference Goodfellas in here. Like, I mean, it's still a stupid scene, but it's just like the scene basically pretty much says, you know what you could be watching right now? Goodfellas, a far superior movie right now. Am I right or am I right? Also, the movie is supposed to take place in 2013, but they keep showing the old Dallas TV show in Normandy, as well as the 80s, 90s version of Wheel of Fortune on TV, and they're showing us in America, too. It's just like, what time period is this movie supposed to be in? They'll never tell you, but the stupidest scene in this movie overall is the way the bad guys find them, and it really is one of the stupidest things I have ever seen in my life. The son writes a paper for the school, and to the powers of Deus Ex Machina, the paper somehow finds its way to New York City. I'm sorry, but that's fucking lazy. Like, this isn't a cartoon where just you could put like in The Rescuers, where a bottle can just can be thrown away down in New Orleans, and then all of a sudden make its way up to New York City. It's supposed to be a serious live-action movie here. And, like, how the hell does a newspaper go all the way from Normandy, all the way from New York City? Like, it's like the paper took, again, the same path that the bottle and the rescuers did. But on top of that, it's like the equivalent of the scene from The Critic, where Jay is in a prison during the Gulf War, and, like, he has a bird that flies all the way to New York City. Like, in that and the rescuers, it makes sense because it's a cartoon. But, like, and again, one of the biggest things I hate about movies nowadays is that the abrupt endings, man. I cannot stand movies that have abrupt endings. This one has yet another abrupt ending, and it has no resolution whatsoever. It's like, well, we fucked up this town, better move on to the next one. Let's wait for the sequel to come out, which, yeah, there was never a sequel for this. And I'm sorry, nothing pisses me off more than movies that have abrupt endings that don't give us a resolution to what just happened. It's like, oh no, we fucked up, so we gotta go somewhere else now. It's just like, no. You're a movie. You're not a TV show. Give us an ending that isn't anticlimactic. This doesn't need an anticlimactic ending because you're not getting a sequel out of this. No matter how hard you try. Like, it pisses me off. It really does piss me off with a film like this. And it's not the last one to do this, and it won't be, it's not the first time that this is done, and it's not the last time this has been done. It's just, I hate that. I hate movies with abrupt endings. There are times when you can end a movie abruptly, but not like this. Not like this. Not in a movie like Swing Vote. I know there's a couple of other ones I've touched on. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you get the idea. Abrupt endings are just a sign that you're too lazy to come up with an ending. So you're basically telling the audience, here, come up with your own ending. I'm out of here. Just like, no, that's not how this works in this dojo. I mean, all in all, I'm glad I saw the movie when it came out, but I have no intentions of ever watching this again. I can't really recommend it either. It's not a good movie at all. The performances, I think, are fine. The action sequences are okay. You get a couple of good laughs here and there, but it falters heavily in the story department. It really ruins the film with its abrupt ending. I can't really recommend it at all. If you want a truly great dark comedy, go watch War of the Roses. Go watch Very Bad Things. Those are much funnier and much darker than what this movie tried to do. And, again, for Luc Besson, it's definitely a hell of a lot better than some of the other movies we're going to get to in this decade because, yeah, boy, he really fell off a cliff in the 2000s. I'll just say that, but, yeah, The Family's not one of his better outings. That's for damn sure. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. We're back to one weekend next time around, looking at the movies of September 20th with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal starring in Prisoners from director Denis Villeneuve. We have the dance flick Battle of the Year. We have the 3D IMAX re-release of The Wizard of Oz. We have the indie comedy Thanks for Sharing with Mark Ruffalo, Josh Gad, and Pink starring in one of her rare acting roles. We have James Gandolfini in one of his first movies he made after he passed away, along with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Enough Said. And we have Ron Howard's latest film, and probably the best thing Chris Hemsworth was doing outside of Thor, Rush. So we'll take a look at those movies coming up tomorrow on the show. So stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. Don't forget, we also have a Time About the Movies flashback coming your way later tonight, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thanks for watching this, and whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.